Hi, Bright Lights. Welcome. My name is Tina, and in today's video, we're going to talk about some jagged truths, especially about relationships. And I wear my Care Bear shirt. I do, it's so funny that as I've gotten older, I remember when we were younger, and I would see these old ladies wearing their shirts with like little dogs on them and stuff, and I thought that was so goofy. And then I was like, oh, I really like this Care Bear shirt. We're going to need a lot of Care Bear energy this month of April to kind of navigate through all the chaos, but it's all positive. So it's all bringing us to that higher level of awareness, which we are all striving for so that we can heal our inner world, so that we can see a better world on the outside. And of course, and in helping people on their awakening journey, I do talk a lot about doing a check-in with where you are spending your time, your energy, and your resources. Taking a deep dive to see where you might be out of balance or where it might be keeping you stuck in a lower vibrational energy that keeps bringing in the same experience over and over again. I've also mentioned this is a year of great change, and there will be many jagged truths coming to light, not only on a global scale, but also tied to the relationships in our lives. This will be hard to swallow for many as the reality of some of the relationships comes to the surface. So, when we want to talk about where we spend our time, energy, and resources on our relationships, we need to keep thinking about who's in our life. One of the first places you need to go is you know what what relationships are, our family, friends, bosses, coworkers. You get the idea. But this video is not going to be entirely about them. It's kind of going to be more about what's going on with us on the inside, what's causing all of this, especially if you have experienced patterns of being victimized, abused, betrayed, and used. Healing is an inside job. And of course, I'm not talking about you as a child. That is the most innocent part of you. And so this is more about when we reach adulthood and we keep seeing these certain types of people keep showing up, you know. And this can also be about family members and the ones that we continue to try to keep a close relationship with, even though we know that they're not good for our inner healing journey. In fact, staying in unhealthy relationships can keep you stuck in your healing journey. So, the first place we need to look at is always the energy around these relationships, that people that surround you are there because you help them to continue to feel a certain way. If you're staying in a physically abusive relationship, you are helping feed this person, a feeling of superiority, power, and control. If you keep rescuing someone by giving them money or always being there when they need a shoulder to cry on, you're feeding this person safety, but you're also allowing them to stay in the energy of victimhood. So we must be clear that it is okay to be supportive in our relationships, but it's about discerning when it becomes more than that. So the two things I want you to remember about our two different types when we talk about empaths and narcissists is the narcissist teaches endurance. The empath teaches discernment. And one way you can start to look at your relationships through the lens of how am I making this person feel? And the most important question, is this helpful to the both of us? People who are stuck in life are often very addicted to the victim energy. And of course, if you are in victim energy, you will continue to bring in more experiences that make you feel like a victim. And this is from a very non judgmental view because I was someone, based on my childhood experiences, that carried a lot of victim energy. And this is very understandable. We don't blame or shame here. We just observe and we access new energy from a place of love. The other way we can look at our relationships is through the lens of what is your definition of the ideal self. Now, I looked up the formal. definition of the ideal self, and it is the concept in psychology that represents a person's ultimate aspirations, embodying the attributes, achievements, and character traits they wish to possess. The ideal self is a person you want to be and is created out of what you have learned from your life experiences. It can be about the demands of society as well and what you admire in role models. But we need to look at who are you idealizing in your life, where you have one version of who they are in your head, but they are also showing you another version of who they really are by their actions. And this is where, for me, a big shift happened recently. And I talked about that a little bit in the shadow video that I did, because it became clear about my role and how I was seeing this relationship and how those jagged truths really cut me very deeply. So I want to talk about that relationship. This was somebody that I had been supporting for at least 5 years, in the fact that she was in an abusive relationship with somebody. And I was felt like I was helping and supporting her in any way that I could. I felt over this time that she was like on the edge of a breakthrough, that she was really going to start making changes in her life, but that never materialized. And actually, things, what would happen is nothing is ever really linear, but things kind of go in a cycle. And so there would be times where this person would start to exhibit some change in her life. And that would just be for a very short period, and then things would go back to the way they were, and then they would come back around again, and then she would try to make some changes. And it was kept going round and round. So what happened was when people stay stuck in this very victim energy, they keep bringing in more things to become a victim of. So things are actually happening in her world that were very, very traumatic. And I had to really start to take a look at this relationship, because it became fundamentally clear to me that even though that I felt I was providing support to this person, I had to look at it in more of the aspect of how am I enabling this person to continue to behave in this way, and when this behavior was affecting people that were very close to her, not just myself, but she had a small child. And so there was some neglect going on and some things that were happening that really shook me to my core. So I had to really reevaluate this relationship. And I had to understand that not all people that exhibit are in abusive relationships are truly victims. Sometimes these people have put on these masks and they put you in this role because people are trying to gain something from you. So people like energy vampires, narcissists, manipulators, and controllers that I always talk about, they first gain your trust by projecting this idealized version of themselves onto you. And this is very unconscious for the most part, by the way. But what is actually happening is they're getting you to take on the parental savior rescuer role to their wounded and abandoned child. And when you try to change them or try to make them see things to actually give them something to, it kind of triggers a lot of guilt and shame. And if you try to leave them, it triggers more guilt and shame to you, because you'll feel like you're a parent abandoning a child. And you can actually experience the distress and of that and re-experiencing your own abandonment, your own childhood wounds. And that's why when you bond with these people, it's very hard to break. It's also tied to very obsessive thinking, where I didn't sleep really well for several nights. I, was really spiraling when I had realized that this person, this destructive behavior, and how it was hurting everyone around her. And it was just, I knew I needed to disconnect from it, because I was not in a place where I could help anybody, let alone help myself. But those are kind of some signs when you know that you are in one of these relationships. It's that obsessive thinking. And you really being drawn into the drama, which it had nothing absolutely to do with me. I was just brought in as a support person to play out this role between these two parties, and it was all about trauma bonding. And I was sometimes in a really strong trauma bonded relationship, they will try to bring in third parties to play different roles, but it's you have to start to look at the relationship for what it is. And this was not somebody who was trying to heal and somebody who was trying to get away from this relationship. This was an obsessive love relationship, and it was two people trying to control the other. And that involved abuse, manipulation, and again, addictions play a big role in trauma bonded relationships because it's feeding off of this kind of reward cycle that this I have to earn a reward. And so you get attached to this kind of this endurance and this hardship piece. So it's kind of all part of that cycle. But so one of the first things I had to do once the jagged truth hit and I realized, oh, there's more going on here than meets the eye. There's something I have not been seeing about my contribution to what is happening. So I had to see where I was idealizing this person because this person's actions and the results of her actions were not meeting what I believed to be about her. For the past 5 years, I always thought she was on, like I said, this verge of a real breakthrough, but I found out that that was all my illusion. I allowed that illusion to take place because that's what she was feeding me, although she had no intention of going through with anything. And so here are some just practical steps when you finally see the reality of what is happening in the relationship. And so the first thing you have to do is to be careful to not make it all about you, because we do tend to go back into that victim mode. We do tend to want to blame others, and I call that the blame shifting. So there's going to be enough of that going on with the party you're trying to break free from. So you just want to make sure that you're starting to get back to a place of objectivity. And you have to remember this pattern needs to be broken. Whether they break their pattern, that's on them, but you have to break the pattern that they have brought you into. So be careful about the triggers that it's bringing up in you, because this is where you need to do your healing work. And then again, take the pressure off yourself, look at it objectively. And I even went so far as to talk to somebody who was kind of on the outside to get more of an objective view and how maybe I was contributing to fueling this victim energy and fueling this, keeping this person stuck in this pattern. Because again, we're not here to enable people to stay in their patterns. We're here to help if we can, but it's not meant to be this ongoing, unhealthy, very distorted process where everybody gets gets abused in the process. So redefine your role and communicate it. Because this is somebody that I'm not immediately going to walk away from at this point. That may happen down the road. And what I did is I actually wrote down my communication and I took a few days off. And normally, when this person calls when she's in a state of trauma because of something that happened in her life, in this case, there was a DUI, there was some other things going on that, a month ago, it was a smashed car. It's all this drama dragging you into their trauma. And so now it's about starting to break those bonds. And so I even though she had communicated with me, I did not communicate back for several days. And she knew right away something was wrong because that is not like me. I always was there offering my support, and I purposely withheld it, not in a revengeful way, not like, oh, you deserve not to have my help. That's not what this is about. This is us breaking the bond. And the bond is this reactivity that happens when trauma is going on, or when people are causing trauma in their lives. All of this stuff that has happened in her life is all self-inflicted. This is nothing that somebody is doing to her that she is not participating in willingly. And I'm saying that from a very loving and non-judgmental place. So I need to take several days to get grounded because I wasn't sleeping well. You talk about this obsessive thinking and how they're hooks. When you're involved in a trauma bond, the hooks go very deep inside you. And so it's very connected to you psychically. And so it's very important to take a couple of days to start so that can kind of calm down. Because I was feeling all this very unsettled energy, obviously, from what this person was going through, but I needed to take a step back now and reevaluate things. And I wanted to do it coming from my heart and not coming from a place of reactivity or judgment. And so I will read to you some of what I communicated to this person about reestablishing my role in this relationship. And so this is what I had said, and I had wrote it down, so I'll read it to you. I have been giving our relationship quite a bit of thought. There are several changes I plan to make, and that is I cannot continue to have conversations that revolve around everyone else, but you taking accountability for what is happening in your life. Please don't call if you are under the influence or after 9 p.m. unless it is an emergency. I cannot emphasize how important it is for you to get back to some sense of a healthy self. I do not feel I know who you are anymore. You seem to not care how your behavior affects those closest to you and those that depend on you most. I will always love you and truly believe you will find your way back to truth. And I left it at there. And I had texted this message, and the person responded, okay, I love you too. So it was very, when stuff comes from the heart, people in some cases can hear it. That doesn't give me any hope there's going to be any change, but I'm now reestablishing boundaries. And this is about respecting my time and my energy, because I was at times getting calls during the night when she was under the influence, and giving her my energy when I should not have been doing that. And so you also have to expect for the fallout. When you start to reestablish a role, you have to be ready for backlash, because this is going to change the dynamics. And that is going to make the people that are involved very, very uncomfortable. And so they will either try to work through other people to come back at you, to try to guilt you or shame you or whatever into keeping this participation in this bond going. So you have to be aware of that. I highly suggest people get off of Facebook and social media, because people like to use that as tools to guilt you. They like to public shame you when you start participating, especially family members will do this. It's just, again, we don't need, I've am on Facebook, and it was just because I was involved when I was in my healing work and I was taking classes with a huge spiritual group I was part of. We would have hidden Facebook groups, and that was really the only purpose. But I am also going to be disconnecting my Facebook. I have not done that yet. I planned on doing that this weekend. Again, because it's, again, cutting off that other avenue of control that they have over you. And that's what you need to do. Um, and so you need to also look at how you can change that victim energy within you. Okay. Your wounded child, so that you're not attracting in other people who have not yet dealt with their trauma. And that's the work that we're doing when I talk about inner child work and those types of things. Meditation. Meditation is not just about quieting the mind, it's about getting back to finding the answers within yourself. It's stopping the brain from doing all of this controlling, and it's starting to look at your heart to see what's really inside there. And this is about taking back your power and accepting that you are the creator of your reality, even if someone does something bad to you or tries to involve you in these very bad, toxic situations. Because this is about loving yourself enough to guard your peace, where we can start manifesting from a place of consciousness, not from these very toxic patterns. And so I wanted to maybe just pull a couple cards to uh, to find out where else maybe we can get some help from spirit and our guides on situations that might come up in your life. Because again, this doesn't have to be like my situation. This can involve, I've had bosses at work where I kind of idealized them because they were the boss, and I thought, oh, they must have earned that place, and it must be because of the great work they do. And then all of a sudden, it starts to unravel, and you find out, oh, well, they just use people to get what they want, and what they say never meets their actions. And so it's not about looking over your shoulder thinking, oh, who's the next narcissist that's going to come in? It's really coming from this place of neutrality and not projecting that idealized self onto anybody. Not Especially we do that with very wealthy people in our culture. There's this idealization that goes on, and people idolize them literally, and they're not really seeing them for who they are. Because somebody has a lot of money, it doesn't mean they're this great manifester, that they know how to bring in abundance. And that's not what it's about. It's about using, it can be, I should say it's always about, it can be about using people. People who have earned money off of these mines in Africa, whether it's emeralds or diamonds, and what suffering that's caused people. There's also a uranium mine in Africa where they allow the people to handle this stuff, knowing how toxic it is without protective gear. And the people reaping the benefits of this know that. So this is what I'm saying, is that we need to stop idealizing things like really wealthy people, thinking, oh, well, they must know, look at where they are and what they have. That doesn't mean they got there with honor and integrity. And hoarding wealth is the most immoral thing you can do, because that is taking from others and hoarding it. I don't know how many people are on the planet, but we have even one person that could give everybody $1 million and would still be wealthy. It's crazy when you think about it, for the lack of resources that come back to the planet. So we have to be careful about that, about idealizing people. And so that's my last thing I wanted to bring up about that. So I'm going to pull from the Secret Language of Life, and we'll just pull just a few cards. This doesn't get too long. Oh, and so the Divine Feminine card is coming in. And we all know that from a spiritual perspective, the Divine Feminine is, that's raising. The feminine has been very brutally attacked in our culture for many, many years, and people don't understand the implications of that. So let's just see what this is talking about. So shine your inner light on your desires, because the feminine is where all the creativity, fertility, and ideas come from. So look beyond the obvious and the superficial into the heart of the matter. Peer deeper into the hidden and explore the mysterious. Remember your vast potential and the unlimited possibilities available to you. It is time to trust your intuition, your inner voice, and your instincts. This may also be a time for stillness, for there are unseen forces at work, orchestrating the whole universe to bring intense and beautiful experiences to your life. Allow yourself to receive all that you want. You are the mother of all you create. Nurture yourself, well, nature yourself too, and all that flows within and around you. There may be an impending marriage or birth around you, either physically or symbolically. I did have a dream about a baby, but the baby jumped into the lake and I jumped in after trying to save the baby. So there's a little message in that for me. The divine feminine wants you to know there is always enough to go around. Abundance is everywhere. Embrace joy. And this can be, again, what I was saying about hoarding wealth. Again, it's not about coming from a place of lack, it's just understanding that. People who hoard wealth are doing it not from this high consciousness perspective. And so let's go to the Angel Guide Oracle. And then we talked about ask and receive. And so in the work that I do with soul contract readings, which help people to see patterns, the patterns that they chose to break free from and things that they're going to bring into their life, and then kind of their spiritual journey, because we all have this physical and spiritual side to us. And so the divine healing that I do to help people process their old patterns and trauma is based on the ask and you shall receive. And that's why we do a lot of mantras on here. I believe in affirmations. I do a lot of vow breaks. Those things are really important because as you speak it, the sound has a lot of power. And we want to make sure that we're coming back into our true power. And this is about setting boundaries. And I like to not say so much about boundaries because empaths, we like to feel out everything. Boundaries is a little bit more difficult for us, but claim your power and know your value today. And so I always come back to respect. Where are you being disrespected? So if someone's calling me at 2 a.m, they're drunk, they're disrespecting my time because there isn't going to be any type of productive conversation at 2 a.m. or when they're under the influence. So allowing somebody to call me that late is not is being disrespectful to myself and allowing them to disrespect me. So I just wanted to make that clear. That can be a boss too that's overworking you or expecting you to work weekends every weekend. That is disrespectful to you. Everybody wants to help out in times of need once in a while, but if something's chronically going on in your life, you got to look at that time, energy, and resources. And so we're going to pull one more final card from the Gateway of Light activation. I think April, we're going to see at the end of April. Yeah, we're going to be coming through this kind of this portal here, this vortex. It's been a very challenging year so far. Stellar gateway activation, infinite potential and manifestation vortex. So we've been in kind of this retrograde period where there's a lot of reflecting. You may be seeing a lot of patterns coming back that you thought maybe you beat. I saw that come back around because things are in cycles. It's not linear. Oh, I release this addictive pattern and now I move on to this and I release this. Things come back around. And so we're in this period this year where there's going to be a lot of retrograde energy and things where we reflect, but old patterns can come back up for us to take another look at because it's like peeling the onion back. It comes up in layers. And so this is telling me, and you can kind of see there's this pyramid and this path. And so we're all climbing, going through the portals. Things are opening up for us, but things can still come back around. But this is great for our manifestation. So all of this was wonderful. We're going to pull the last I want to do a healing mantra for this video because we are talking about jagged truth. So what does Matt Kahn have for us? Inviting ecstasy. Because again, a lot of this, where we get into these relations, is about keeping us in that lower vibrational energy. And so inviting ecstasy. So the mantra is, and we're going to say this 3 times, I am worthy of all the pleasures my heart desires. I am worthy of all the pleasure my heart desires. I am worthy of all the pleasure my heart desires. And I just want to read this. I think this is a great note to end on. When ecstasy is invited, you feel aligned and ready to receive all the miraculous and joyful gifts of experience the universe is ready to provide you. Ecstasy acts as a cosmic green light that grants your destiny permission to enter. In many instances, pain can be healed and released once a healthy relationship with pleasure is established. The mantra is ideal for increasing self-worth, elevating levels of excitement, and allowing bigger dreams. And so that's what this vortex with the purple, and we see a lot of purple energy in the cards. Um, dark energy here. So do you see what we've got going on here? And this is all we're elevating our consciousness. And that's why these jagged truths are coming for us to show us we're ascending. So this is all very, very wonderful news and for our ability to manifest better things in our life. So I'm going to leave you with that. That makes me very happy that that all came full circle. And find your Care Bear this next month that you can gravitate towards and be the Care Bear. And I will see you in the next video.